Hi, I'm psychologist Dr. Rich O'Neill with this week's Checkup from the Neck Up, Mr. Nardi's Excuse Therapy, or 3 minutes to 20% less chance of a heart problem. Well, dear tuner inners, if you listen up for the next 3 minutes, you might just reduce your chance of a heart attack or dying from a heart attack by 20%. Yep. This past week, Harvard researchers combined the results of 8 scientifically sound studies of replacing saturated fat in our diet with polyunsaturated fat, like soybean oil. The group of people who did this for at least a year had about 20% fewer heart attacks and cardiac deaths than the group that didn't. That's right, about 20% less if we just substitute polyunsaturated fat for saturated fat. Important, though, we can't just cut saturated fat out of our diet or substitute something else for it, like carbs. We have to get the polyunsaturated fat in, too. They have a heart protective effect. Now, this has been big news in the media over the last few days, and I bet a lot of you have already heard about this study. But my question is, how many of us have actually made the switch to from saturated to polyun, or at least made a real commitment, to doing so the next time we go to the grocery? Why do I ask? Well, it all goes back to 6th grade. One day, I didn't do my homework. When our teacher, Mr. Nardi, asked me about it, and I gave him my excuse, I think I left my book in my locker at school or something. And I wasn't fibbing, it was true, and I really believed it was a problem that could not possibly have been solved the night before when I was supposed to be homeworking it up. Mr. Nardi said, "Mr. O'Neill," this was before I was Dr. O'Neill, "where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way, Mr. O'Neill." I never forgot that. It probably set me on the course to being a psychologist. And now, actually being Dr. O'Neill, a psychologist, I often work with myself and other people about shifting from knowing something to doing something about it. About once we know what makes sense to do but aren't doing it yet, figuring out what's in the way, our excuse, grabbing our will to move it out of the way and making the change. So, if we want to keep our ticker ticking, but haven't yet done our homework and made the switch to polyun, remember Mr. Nardi's excuse therapy. Where there's a will, there's a way. And figure out our way. Then we can all sing together. I did it my way. I'm Dr. Rich. I did it my way. O'Neill, thanks for tuning in.